We're coming to you live for the Built Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason and Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network and wherever you're on the free Odyssey app. Good Tuesday morning. A lot of action yesterday. A lot of action with the Jets and the Giants and basically every team in the NFL. But I did love what the Giants did. And maybe it's just because there's this honeymoon phase with John Harbaugh and the fact that this team feels like it's on the right track. But I did feel really good about them getting Tremaine Edmunds. I was talking about him for the last week or so. So happy that he ended up in a Giants uniform. The Isaiah Likely signing is something that people speculated about with the Giants. He is here now as well. We'll talk about the Jets' moves and how it's pissing off Breece Hall. The Knicks lose last night to the Clippers and plenty more. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. I'm doing well. Don't forget about Jordan Stout, the punter for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, a lot of money.
I mean, when you think about who the Giants did sign, obviously there's some familiarity there with John Harbaugh and his former Ravens players. And a lot of this has to also do with special teams. And, he takes it really, really seriously. He was a former special teams coach with the Philadelphia Eagles. It's always been a staple of his. Like, he's a head coach that's involved in special teams. So with his special teams coach here that, he brought over from the Ravens, they wanted some continuity, and I think they got it. And I think it's going to be one of the things that, it's going to be underappreciated right now. But during the season, it will start to surface as to, field position, things of that nature, all the little things that a guy like John Harbaugh is going to bring to the head coaching position of the New York Giants.
I heard Al break it down this morning, $70,000 a punt for Jordan Stout.
Good for him. Whatever, man. Whatever. Flip the field, man. Put it inside the 20.
Flip the field for 70 grand.
It's one of those things that you take for granted until all of a sudden a Rashid Shaheed shows up in Seattle in a midseason trade and has a profound impact on special teams. And the Seahawks were able to keep him because he was such a valuable part of just the little things of football that sometimes you kind of take it for granted. Every coach talks about it. I just don't know how many coaches actually put the time and effort into it from a head coaching position. So I think I think it was a good start for both teams. Actually, the Jets are trying to rebuild their defense in the immediate moment with all these, I would say, kind of quasi-veterans that they're bringing here. Demario Davis and Minkah Fitzpatrick immediately become the leaders of the defense.
And 3 one-year deals with Dane Belton, Kingsley Engabare, and David Onyemata, which I thought was interesting. I mean, 3 one-year contracts.
Well, they need defensive linemen for sure, and they're going to try to bring them in, and they're going to bring 100 of them in, I'm sure. They're just going to keep rotating guys in, and these aren't long-term deals. And even when you take a look at the Minkah Fitzpatrick deal, after a year or two, you can get out of it, and it's not going to cost you that much. So, I mean, they're all safe signings. We don't know what they're going to look like until they actually get on the field. But the one thing I would say about Minkah and Demario Davis, now Demario's towards the end of his career. I think this is just more of this is the type of guy we want in the locker room. This is the type of guy we want around our young guys. We want to see, and obviously Aaron Glenn has familiarity with him from his days in New Orleans. So this is the guy that we need to be the leader of our defense. He's going to be calling the defense. He's the one that Aaron Glenn's going to be calling the defense into. So I think there's a level of comfort there for Aaron Glenn too. So I mean, look, free agency, I mean, it is a minefield. It is really a minefield. You just never know. And then you get somebody like the Chiefs who decide, you know what, we really need a running back desperately. And all of a sudden, Kenneth Walker III, now the Super Bowl MVP, becomes the highest paid running back in NFL history. Think about that for a second. Mm-hmm. And good for him. He deserves it. I mean, I've always thought that the running backs are severely underpaid, that there should be a carve-out specifically for them, given the amount of hard work and the injuries that they do suffer. But, he gets his payday with the Chiefs. And, Andy Reid gets his running back with Eric Bieniemy back. It's going to be, they're going to pound a rock now. They're going to try to do exactly what Seattle did to get them back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and quarterbacks that did go yesterday, including Tua going to the Atlanta Falcons. I didn't have that going on. We did talk about whether or not the Dolphins were going to bring in Malik Willis or they were going to just throw anybody out there to have a terrible season. Well, Jeff Hafley brought over Malik Willis from the Green Bay Packers, and they gave him the money that people were expecting he was going to get. So I found that whole switch very, very interesting, and we'll see if Tua can resurrect his career down in Atlanta if he gets that opportunity to start, which I'm imagining he will.
Well, Michael Penix is coming off of an injury.
Yeah, I mean,
so I think he may be QB 1A right now, and they'll battle it out. And one of the reasons he went there, I think, was because he believes he has a chance to start, and plus they have a lot of good skill players around. They'll have a lot of good skill players around him. So I think it makes. It's interesting that Malik Willis went to Miami and not to Arizona. The LaFleur brothers. I wonder. I don't know what Arizona's doing. I guess they're going to go with Jacoby Brissett. I don't know if they'll draft a kid. Who knows? But it's interesting. I thought maybe it's easy to see Erickson and Hafley in Miami, who have been around Malik Willis for a couple of years now, and they've seen him on the practice field. Let's take him. Let's bring him in here. We think he's going to be really good. But I don't understand why, was Arizona in on him or not?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't do enough looking into the Arizona angle there. But, yeah, I'm not sure what their plan is, but it doesn't seem like it's one that's going to include wins in 2026 out in Arizona.
Yeah, so I was thinking about the Jet quarterback situation. Maybe they're just waiting. They're waiting to see who's going to come available, and if somebody comes available that they like, they'll sign them. Maybe they'll make a trade for somebody on draft day. I'm not really sure yet. The one thing I will say, and let me put this in a very respectful way, I think what they're trying to find is what they once had. And what they once had was a player who was competent enough, smart enough, and good enough to keep the team competitive and win some games with him, and that's Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's how I see what's going on with the Jets right now. They're looking for that guy that could be that 2-year starter that can make them competitive offensively. He may not be a difference maker. He's not going to run for first downs, whoever this quarterback's going to be. Unless, of course, it's Kyler Murray, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I think they're trying to find, if I could put it in a perspective so people can understand, the right guy to be able to handle the offense, make the right reads 95% of the time, and then just keep the game close and give them enough offense where this defense has got to get turnovers. That's the one thing the Jets didn't do last year. So they brought in guys that I'd like to think are turnover mavens that are going to get turnovers on defense. Now they got to find the quarterback that they can trust that is going to keep them in game offensively and not throw interceptions and incompletions on third down.
So Kirk Cousins? That sounds like what you're talking about.
I still feel like
sounds like that's a comp to me with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, but you understand what I'm saying?
Of course I do.
I mean, because that's really what's left unless there's some other trade for some player, whether it be Tanner McGee. I don't know. He hasn't really played. I mean, how do you know? So I think, if you want to go the safe route and you want to get a guy in here that is going to be keeping you competitive, as opposed to the way we saw them play the last 5 games of the year, which no competitive aspect whatsoever. You knew that they were going to get blown out, which they did. So I still think this is now Kirk Cousins isn't officially released yet.
Yeah, but we all know he will be.
Well, we all do know that, but so maybe that's who they're waiting for is what I'm saying. Unless there's a trade out there in the offing, which who knows, there could be, and you just don't know which player that would be.
Yeah, and I think now that he has shown himself to be healthy again, because he looked like a guy who was on his last legs, quite frankly, and had came back last year and looked really, really good again. I think it's a perfect fit for right now if you can keep him upright. And I believe that the Jets' offensive line is in a decent position to do that. He is someone that will accept this challenge like Frank Reich accepted the challenge. He's someone who's not going to look at the Jets' history and have a problem with it. He is a veteran who wants an opportunity to start. He'll come right in. He'll be the unquestioned leader and starter. They'll slap a C on his jersey, and he's going to love every bit of that. So that's why I think it's that type of mentality that's perfect for what the Jets are trying to do right now. And even though Frank and Kirk didn't work together previously, if this does happen, it seems like it's a match made in heaven with those two guys, because they're very similar personalities. They're very religious guys. They love football. They don't care about the negativity. And I think it'd be a great match if it works out.
They don't pay attention to social media at all. Believe me, it's a cancer if you're in those positions. Interesting. The Jets want all defense, legitimately all defense. So it kind of makes you think about what are they going to do now with there's still some free agency guys out there that haven't settled just yet, so they may not be done there. But the offensive side of the ball, I think they probably feel pretty good about. But it makes me think that definitely wide receivers in the offing. Definitely wide receivers in the offing when it comes to the draft now. They want safety, linebacker, defensive tackle, 2 defensive ends, and another safety. So 2 safeties, 2 defensive ends, a defensive tackle, and a linebacker.
A lot of bodies there in the defensive side of the ball for Aaron Glenn and his superpower.
And by this Osai from the Bengals, I would tell you he's more of a hard try guy. He's like one of these guys, you'll love him. He's not going to get you, 10 sacks, but what he's going to do, he's going to be a rotational player. All these guys are going to be rotational players. I think what they're trying to do is trying to figure out a way to be able to, get enough guys out there that they can rotate and keep those guys fresh. And this is exactly what they should be doing on defense, given what happened to them last year. So I don't know. I look at it as a positive for both the Jets and the Giants. But again, we have to see what it looks like when they all convene on the field before we can decide whether or not this is an A+ or a B-, free agent signing period.
Yeah, and Breece Hall chimes in again yesterday and says, we got to have a lot of money over there in Florham Park with all these dudes that are signing contracts, basically taking a shot saying you could have signed me to a contract because you have plenty of money to do so, but instead I'm sitting here with a franchise tag. So I know what he's doing. And
by the way, the franchise tag is $14.2 million.
Right, of course, he gets paid this year, but we all know that these guys are looking for long-term security, especially at that position where it could end at any moment, and he wants a multi-year deal with more guaranteed money, which I understand.
So is he going to make more than Kenneth Walker III? Because Kenneth Walker is basically making $15 million a year for 3 years.
He's not going to make more than that if he did sign a long-term deal. He's not going to make more than that.
So he get a 3-year, $32 million deal with $20 million or $25 million guaranteed.
I'm sure he'd love that, yeah.
Call it a day.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to do that, but I'm sure he'd love that. But this just goes to the point that he's not interested in being a Jet. Like he's made it clear, and then he does all these things. It's very CeeLo-ish with the passive aggressiveness because he did it before on Instagram where he's like, free BH or whatever it was, and then he's like, oh, no, I didn't mean anything like that. I mean, it was like, just a mentality. It's just having a free mentality out there. Yeah, okay, bull crap. And then he puts this out there and he's like, oh, I'm just saying that I'm happy that we're signing people. Like, just stop. If you're going to go in all in with this, that you're pissed off that you got the franchise tag you want out of here, then fine, go for it. And do that, but don't do it passive aggressively and then pretend that you're not doing it. And this is what I was talking about before they slapped a franchise tag on him. I mean, I hope that I would believe he's going to go out there and have a good season. This is what the Jets need to change is
this kind of crap.
Kind of stuff.
Yes, I know that, but this is what happens when you're losing and things feel like they're getting away from you, and all of a sudden the players take it upon themselves to put something out there on social media, and then we have to try to interpret it.
Well, I mean, there's no trying to interpret it. We know exactly what he's saying.
But I mean, I'm saying for Aaron Glenn, it's just another kind of thing that you got to deal with. You got another unhappy player. They got rid of unhappy players. Quincy Williams is now gone. Quentin Williams is gone. Sauce Gardner is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, Jermaine Johnson's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, so is Breece Hall that far out the door? I don't think so. I think they want to keep him, but this kind of stuff, I mean, it's just another fly in the ointment, so to speak. Is you just got to deal with this crap and everybody's feelings, and they're putting it out there on social media. I mean,
and he's
back
been doing
back
this
in the day, you
years.
never had to deal with that crap.
Yeah, no, of course not. I mean, you deal with guys that were pains in the asses, but it was a different way. And this, now the guys have, he probably doesn't say a word to Darren Muji, Aaron Glenn, Frank Reich, anybody in that building, Woody Johnson, but then he puts it out on social media so everybody can see it, and then he'll get the, oh, I can't believe they didn't pay you, Breece. Oh, I can't believe it. They should pay you. Don't give me a contract. And he gets his little kicks from that and his dopamine hits, but really it just shows you that he needs to go somewhere else. I mean, you heard what Harrison Phillips said about the
locker room and everything
the
else.
cesspool that has been there and how Aaron Glenn inherited that. Now, Breece Hall's a really good football player, but he started his career in that cesspool and has been swimming in it ever since he got drafted. And you can tell that the stink is still on him. So if you believe that you could find running backs later in the draft and all of these other things that we hear about the position, and he doesn't want to be here and he wants to be whining about it, then fine. Then go. Figure out a trade partner and get him the hell out of here.
You know what I would tell him? I would tell him, go back and look at Jonathan Taylor under Frank Reich. Go back and look what he did.
Yeah.
And how important he was to the offense. Mm-hmm. Just buckle up and go out and have another great year. And if you do have a great year, if they don't sign you to an extension, you're going to make some money because you're going to get some opportunities. I mean, that's the thing that you got to be thinking about if I were him. And I'm sure he and his agent are talking and, again, this passive-aggressive nonsense out there on social media, because what it does to the coach, the players probably don't realize this, and you're right, the dopamine from the responses of the fans, oh, you're the greatest, you're the greatest since Curtis Martin, we need to keep you here and all this other stuff. Yeah, I understand all the adulation that is being thrown at the player, but what it does now for the beat writers, it gives them a story.
Oh, yeah.
And it gives them attack mode when you go see the coach or when you see the GM or when you're talking to the offensive coordinator. What are you going to do with this unhappy running back? He's obviously unhappy.
And it's supposed to be a good day yesterday. Like, I know teams get upset and fan bases get upset if you don't re-sign a player or whatever, but there was really no reason for the Jet fan to be upset yesterday. They're just getting started with their free agency, bringing guys in. I thought the Minkah thing was the biggest one earlier on in the day. There's no reason to have any negativity around the team yesterday outside of Breece Hall, who's got to create that. So I'm tired of that type of stuff. Interesting because Darren Muji last offseason tried to get ahead of this type of stuff by signing Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. And we know Garrett Wilson is still here and Sauce Gardner gets traded, but that was one of the reasons that you brought up where they didn't have to sign those two guys, but you knew it was going to be a losing season and you didn't want to hear them bitch and moan, so they got ahead of the thing. And clearly that was the right thing to do with those guys because you see someone like Breece Hall has been there as long as those guys were, and now he's still complaining after getting $14 million for a year with the franchise tag. And I understand that the system sucks. And if I were Breece Hall, I would rather have a long-term deal, but it's enough of this. It's just enough.
Well, the problem is he really wanted to be a free agent. He wanted to be able to, shop his services around. And for less than 1% of the players who get some sort of tag, whether it be the transition tag or the franchise tag, they're the players that, that end up getting screwed under this system. And I would just say because he plays a position in which injuries occur quite often, and they added a 17th game, and they're probably going to add an 18th game, that a guy like running back should not be allowed to be franchise. Like, first of all, they got to get rid of the tags in the first place. From the player's perspective, I'm talking about. Yeah. They have to get rid of the tags. Those tags are bad. They create bad feelings between the player and ownership, and that's why I think the Jets did what they did last year with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. Let's get them into camp. Let's pay them. Let's keep them happy. And this way they won't bitch and complain when Justin Fields is throwing the ball over his head. And that's kind of like you're buying their silence, but you're also giving them respect by saying we're paying you because we believe you're worth this kind of money. And we're doing it early. Then we have to. And then a guy like Breece Hall sees this.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gets upset. And then he puts it out there on social media. And then the media gets a hold of it, and then Aaron Glenn's got to deal with it, and Muji's got to deal with it, and Frank's got to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, why can't everybody be Quinnen Williams and just bitch and complain behind the scenes?
Yes, but by the way, they paid Quinnen Williams too.
No, I don't. Yeah.
So, it's just a hard thing for the player, and I kind of understand where Breece is coming from.
I do too, but it's just been doing way too much of this.
I know that. I know.
It's been years of this.
But somehow, some way, with the new CBA, which is really going to be interesting because this salary cap's going to go up to like another probably $25 or $30 million next year. So they're going to be up to like $330 million. Mm-hmm. Somehow, some way, the players have get rid of these tags. They can't sign a deal. And I know that they're not going to go on strike because players are making so much money now as opposed to when we went on strike back in 87. A lot of players weren't making a lot of money, so missing a couple games didn't kill them. Now, forget that. The players will never go on strike. There'll never be a lockout. But there has to be certain givebacks to the players because the running backs are just getting steamrolled in this league.